I should have known something was wrong the moment Dr. James Crawford's face changed. 1 second he was professional, cordial, making small talk about the weather. The next his expression shifted into something I couldn't quite read. Concern, confusion, alarm. "Dr. Mitchell," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "I need to ask you something. Who was your previous gynecologist?" I was lying on the examination table, paper gown crinkling beneath me, staring at the ceiling tiles I'd counted 3 times already. The question seemed odd, but I answered honestly. "My husband, Dr. Marcus Mitchell. He's a gynecologist too, actually. Has his own practice across town." The silence that followed felt heavy, wrong. I lifted my head to look at Dr. Crawford. He'd stepped back from the examination table, was pulling off his gloves with deliberate slowness. His face was carefully blank now, professionally neutral in that way doctors have when they're trying not to alarm you, which of course, alarms you immediately. "Dr. Crawford?" I sat up slightly. "Is something wrong?" He took a breath, seemed to choose his words carefully. "Dr. Mitchell, I need to run some tests. Comprehensive tests. What I'm seeing here," he paused, his jaw tightening, "what I'm seeing shouldn't be there." My heart started beating faster. "What do you mean? What are you seeing?" "I don't want to speculate until I have lab results." He was already writing orders, his pen moving quickly across the prescription pad. "But I need you to come back in 3 days. These are urgent tests, Sarah." "Can I call you Sarah?" "Yes, of course. But I know this is frightening. I know you have questions. But I need concrete data before I can give you answers." He looked at me directly then, and I saw something in his eyes that made my stomach drop. Pity and anger. 3 days. Come back in 3 days, and we'll talk. I got dressed in a daze, my hands shaking as I buttoned my blouse. Dr. Crawford had been recommended by my colleague, Dr. Jennifer Thomas, who said he was thorough, professional, and had an excellent reputation. I'd finally switched to him after years of Marcus insisting he could handle my care. "Why pay another doctor when I can take care of you?" Marcus would say, kissing my forehead. "I know your body better than anyone." I'd thought it was romantic, intimate, a sign of how close we were. Now standing in Dr. Crawford's office, clutching a folder of lab orders, I felt the first tremor of something I couldn't name. Not quite fear, not quite doubt, but something. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from, and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you my story. I drove home on autopilot, my mind spinning. What could he have seen? What shouldn't be there? I was a doctor myself, an OB/GYN at Metropolitan Hospital. I knew women's anatomy inside and out. I knew what normal looked like, what abnormal looked like, what dangerous looked like, but I didn't know what was inside my own body. Marcus had always handled my care, annual exams, any concerns, even when I'd had that scare with abnormal bleeding 2 years ago. He'd examined me, run tests, told me everything was fine. I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? He was my husband. He was a respected gynecologist. He loved me. Didn't he? I pulled into our driveway, staring at our beautiful craftsman home with its perfectly manicured lawn and flower boxes I'd planted last spring. Everything looked so normal. So perfect. So exactly like it always looked. But something inside me had shifted. Dr. Crawford's face kept appearing in my mind. That careful neutrality. That controlled alarm. The way he'd said what I'm seeing shouldn't be there. Like he was trying very hard not to say what he really meant. I sat in the car for 10 minutes before I could make myself go inside. When I finally did, Marcus was in the kitchen making dinner, jazz playing softly on the speaker, a glass of wine already poured and waiting for me on the counter. "Hey baby," he said, smiling, that warm smile that had made me fall in love with him 12 years ago. "How was your day?" I looked at him, my husband, the man I'd married 8 years ago in a ceremony that made my mother cry with joy. The man who'd held my hand through my father's funeral. The man who made me laugh, who supported my career, who everyone said was the perfect husband. "Fine," I heard myself say. "Just routine checkup. Everything's fine." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. Marcus came over and kissed me, his hands sliding around my waist in that familiar possessive way. "Good. I'm glad. You work too hard, you know. You need to take better care of yourself." "I know," I said. He handed me the wine glass. "Drink up. You look stressed. This will help you relax." I took the glass, held it but didn't drink. Something in me, some instinct I'd been ignoring for years, whispered, "Don't. I'm going to change first," I said, setting the glass down. "Be right back." I went upstairs to our bedroom, closed the door and stood there shaking. 3 days. In 3 days, I'd know what Dr. Crawford had seen. In 3 days, everything might change. Or maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe Dr. Crawford was just being overly cautious. But deep down, in a place I'd been refusing to listen to for a very long time, I knew something was very, very wrong. And my husband was at the center of it. 8 years ago, I'd walked down the aisle in a dress that cost more than my first car, toward a man who everyone agreed was perfect for me. Marcus Mitchell, MD. Handsome, successful, charming. My mother had actually cried when we got engaged. "Sarah, you're so lucky," she'd said, clutching my hands. "A doctor who's also a good man. Do you know how rare that is?" We'd met in medical school, though we hadn't dated then. Marcus was 2 years ahead of me, already focused and driven in a way that intimidated most people. I'd admired him from a distance. This confident black man who seemed to have everything figured out while the rest of us were drowning in anatomy and pharmacology. We reconnected at a medical conference 5 years after graduation. I was finishing my OBGYN residency. He already had his own practice. He'd approached me at the hotel bar, bought me a drink and said, "I always regretted not asking you out in school." 6 months later we were engaged. Another 6 months, married. Everyone said we moved fast, but it felt right. Marcus was attentive, romantic, successful. He sent flowers to the hospital. He remembered my schedule and had dinner waiting when I worked late. He told me I was beautiful, brilliant, perfect. "You're going to be an amazing OBGYN," he'd say. "But let me take care of you, okay? Let me handle your medical care. I want to make sure you're healthy, that you're taken care of." It had seemed sweet, caring. What woman wouldn't want a husband who was also her personal physician? It was convenient, intimate, a sign of how much he loved me. My friends thought it was a little odd. "I don't know, Sarah," my best friend Nina had said over brunch one Sunday. "Don't you want some separation? Like, does Marcus really need to be all up in your, you know?" "It's not weird," I'd insisted. "He's a gynecologist. It's literally his job. And this way, I don't have to explain my medical history to a stranger." Nina had sipped her mimosa and shrugged. "If you say so." My colleague Jennifer had been more direct. "Sarah, it's a boundary issue. Doctors shouldn't treat family members. There's a reason for that rule. It's not like he's doing surgery on me." I'd laughed. "It's just routine care." But Jennifer hadn't laughed back. "Just be careful, okay? Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones we see the least clearly." I dismissed her concerns. Everyone's concerns. Because Marcus was perfect. Our marriage was perfect. Our life was perfect. We had the beautiful house in the nice neighborhood. We had successful careers. We attended charity galas and medical conferences. We volunteered at free clinics together. Marcus would hold my hand during boring board meetings and wink at me across crowded rooms. "My wife, Dr. Sarah Mitchell," he'd introduce me, his hand on the small of my back. "She's brilliant, saves lives every day." People admired us, envied us, said we were relationship goals. But there were things I didn't tell people. Small things. Things that seemed silly to complain about when you had such a perfect marriage. Like how Marcus always needed to know where I was. Not in a sweet "I miss you" way, but in a "why didn't you text me back in 5 minutes" way. Like how he'd get quiet and cold when I went out with Nina, then spend the next day making little comments about how I was choosing friends over family. Like how he'd forgotten to tell me about social events until the last minute, then acted hurt when I couldn't make it because of work. Like how he monitored what I ate, disguised as concern. "Baby, do you really need dessert? You've been complaining about your weight." Like how he'd critique my clothes, my hair, my makeup. "I'm just trying to help you look your best. Sarah, don't get defensive." Like how sex had become something that happened on his schedule, in his preferred way, with him in complete control. And if I wasn't in the mood, "You're always too tired lately. Maybe you should see someone about that." The irony being, of course, that I had seen someone, and he told me I was fine, just stressed, just working too hard. "You need to relax," he'd say, pouring me wine after my shifts. "You need to trust me to take care of you." And I had trusted him. Completely. Absolutely. Why wouldn't I? But now, Driving home from Dr. Crawford's office with a folder of lab orders that Marcus would want to see, I found myself thinking about all those little things. All those moments I'd dismissed or explained away or convinced myself were normal. I thought about the times I'd wake up groggy and disoriented, with Marcus telling me I'd had wine and fallen asleep. I'd believe him even though I didn't remember drinking that much. I thought about the mornings I'd wake up sore in ways I didn't understand, and Marcus saying we'd been intimate the night before. I'd nod and smile, embarrassed that I couldn't remember, wondering if something was wrong with me. I thought about the vitamins Marcus had been giving me for the past 3 years. For your health, he'd say, for when we start trying for a baby. We'd been trying for a baby for 3 years. 3 years of negative pregnancy tests. 3 years of Marcus saying, it's stress. Your body's too stressed. You need to cut back at work. 3 years of me feeling like I was failing at something fundamental. Like my body was broken. Like I wasn't woman enough to give my husband a child. And all that time, Marcus had been my doctor, running tests, examining me, telling me everything was fine, that we just needed to be patient, that these things took time. Now, sitting in our driveway staring at our perfect house, I wondered, what if nothing was fine? What if my body wasn't broken? What if something else was happening? Something I'd been too blind to see. Dr. Crawford's face flashed in my mind again. That controlled alarm, that careful neutrality masking something bigger. What I'm seeing shouldn't be there. I got out of the car and walked toward my front door, each step feeling heavier than the last. Inside, Marcus would be waiting, loving, attentive Marcus. Perfect Marcus. And I would have to pretend everything was fine for 3 more days. 3 days until I knew the truth. 3 days until my perfect marriage either proved me paranoid and ungrateful, or revealed itself as something else entirely. 3 days felt like 3 years. I went through the motions at work, delivering babies and doing routine exams while my mind spun in circles. At home, I pretended everything was normal. I smiled at Marcus. I ate the dinners he made. I avoided the wine he poured. You're not drinking much lately, he observed on the second night, his eyes on the full glass beside my plate. Cutting back? I said lightly. Been feeling a little off. His eyes sharpened. Off? How are you feeling? Sick? Let me examine you. No, just tired. You know, long shifts. He studied me for a moment longer than comfortable, then nodded. Okay. But if you start feeling worse, tell me immediately. Promise? Promise. The lie was getting easier. That scared me. On the morning of the 3rd day, my phone rang at 7 a.m. Dr. Crawford's office. My heart started racing before I even answered. Dr. Mitchell, this is James Crawford. Can you come in today? I have your results, and I need to discuss them with you in person. I have surgery at 9. Sarah. His voice dropped. I need you to come in before your shift. And please, come alone. The emphasis on alone made my blood run cold. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I told Marcus I had an early meeting with the hospital board. He kissed me goodbye, told me to have a good day, said he'd see me tonight. Normal. Everything normal. Except nothing was normal. Dr. Crawford's office was in a medical building downtown. I'd been there once before, for the initial appointment. Now walking through the doors felt like stepping into an alternate reality. The receptionist was expecting me, led me straight back to Dr. Crawford's private office, not an exam room. That should have been my first clue about how serious this was. Dr. Crawford stood when I entered. He looked like he hadn't slept well. Sarah, thank you for coming. Please, sit down. I sat. My hands were shaking, so I folded them in my lap. He pulled up a chair directly across from me, not behind his desk. Doctor to patient. No barriers. I'm going to show you something and I need you to prepare yourself. What I'm about to tell you is significant. He opened a folder and pulled out images. Ultrasounds. Lab results. Pathology reports. He spread them across his desk, then looked at me with an expression I recognized. I'd worn it myself countless times, right before delivering devastating news. Sarah, you have significant scarring in your uterus. Adhesions consistent with multiple surgical procedures. You also have evidence of hormone manipulation, and in tissue damage that's consistent with repeated unauthorized interventions. I stared at the images. They looked like gibberish. My medical training had suddenly vanished, leaving me with nothing but confusion and rising panic. I don't understand. I've never had surgery. Not surgery in a hospital, Dr. Crawford said gently. But procedures, multiple procedures, done over what looks like several years. And Sarah, he paused, his jaw tightening. The tissue samples show evidence of medications you shouldn't have been taking, hormones, sedatives, compounds that would make you drowsy, compliant, and unlikely to remember what happened. The room tilted. I gripped the arms of the chair. Someone has been performing medical procedures on you without your consent. Dr. Crawford continued, his voice steady but angry. Someone with medical training. Someone who had access to you regularly, who could administer medications without raising suspicion. That's impossible, I heard myself say. I would know, I would remember. I'm a doctor. Not if you were sedated, not if someone you trusted completely was telling you that you'd just had wine and fallen asleep. Not if that same person was also your gynecologist, the only one examining you, the only one who could see what was being done to you. The implication hung in the air between us like poison gas. No, I whispered. No, Marcus wouldn't. He's my husband, he loves me. He would never. Sarah, Dr. Crawford leaned forward. I know this is devastating. I know what I'm suggesting seems impossible. But look at these images. Look at these lab results. This didn't happen by accident. This was deliberate, systematic, and done by someone with extensive gynecological training. I looked at the images again. This time my medical training kicked back in. I saw what he was seeing. Scarring where there shouldn't be. Evidence of procedures I'd never consented to. Signs of repeated trauma to tissue that should have been healthy. How bad is it? My voice sounded hollow. Dr. Crawford's expression darkened. The scarring is extensive. Your fallopian tubes have been damaged. The hormone manipulation has affected your ovarian function. Sarah, he took a breath. Based on what I'm seeing, I believe you've been systematically sterilized, without your knowledge or consent. The words hit me like a physical blow. Sterilized. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. 3 years. 3 years of trying to get pregnant. 3 years of negative tests. 3 years of Marcus saying it was stress, that we just needed to be patient, that my body just needed time. 3 years of him examining me, treating me, telling me everything was fine. 3 years of him lying to my face while he destroyed my fertility without my knowledge. I'm going to be sick, I managed to say. Dr. Crawford handed me a trash can. I dry heaved into it, my body trying to purge the horror of what I was learning. When I finally stopped, Dr. Crawford handed me water and tissues. His face was full of compassion and fury. Sarah, I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to listen to me carefully. What's been done to you is a crime. It's assault. It's medical abuse. And if I'm right about who did this, you're potentially in danger. Danger? I looked up at him. Marcus wouldn't hurt me. He's never been violent. This is violence, Dr. Crawford said quietly. What he's done to your body is violence. And people who commit this level of systematic abuse don't stop just because they're discovered. They escalate. I thought about Marcus at home. Perfect, charming Marcus. Marcus who made me dinner and bought me flowers and told everyone how much he loved me. Marcus who'd been drugging me and performing procedures on me without my knowledge for years. Marcus who'd stolen my fertility and lied about it while pretending to try for a baby with me. Marcus who was apparently a monster wearing my husband's face. What do I do? I whispered. Dr. Crawford pulled out a card. I want you to see someone, Dr. Lisa Chen. She's a forensic gynecologist who works with victims of medical abuse. She can document everything, preserve evidence, and help you understand the full scope of what's been done to you. And then we go to the police. I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Told them I had food poisoning. Spent the day in a coffee shop across town, staring at Dr. Chen's card, trying to make my brain work. But every time I tried to think logically, memories kept flooding in. Memories I'd dismissed or explained away. Memories that now had a completely different meaning. The vitamins. Marcus had started giving me fertility vitamins 3 years ago when we decided to start trying for a baby. These will help regulate your hormones. He'd said, help your body prepare for pregnancy. I took them religiously. Every morning, little pink pills from an unmarked bottle that Marcus said he got through his medical connections. Better quality than what you'd get over the counter, he'd assured me. What if they weren't fertility vitamins? What if they were the hormones Dr. Crawford had found in my system? What if they were making me drowsy, compliant, easier to manipulate? The wine? Marcus always had wine ready for me after my shifts. You work so hard, he'd say. You need to relax. I'd drink it feeling like a good wife. Like someone taking care of herself. Then I'd get so sleepy I could barely keep my eyes open. Marcus would help me to bed, tuck me in, tell me to rest. What if there was something in the wine? What if that's when he was doing the procedures? When I was unconscious, helpless, trusting him to take care of me. The grogginess. So many mornings I'd wake up feeling drugged, disoriented. Sometimes there'd be slight bleeding, sometimes soreness. Marcus would say we'd been intimate the night before, that I'd just had too much wine and didn't remember. I'd believed him. I'd been embarrassed that I couldn't remember having sex with my own husband. Wondered if something was wrong with my memory. Never once considered that maybe I hadn't consented because I'd been unconscious. The examinations. Marcus examined me regularly at home. Just routine checks, he'd say. Making sure everything's healthy. I'd lie on our bed while he examined me with clinical detachment. Then his professional manner would slip away and he'd become my husband again. What had he been doing during those examinations? What had I been too trusting to question? The bleeding. 2 years ago, I'd had a week of unexpected bleeding. Not my period. Something else. I'd been worried. But Marcus examined me and said it was just hormonal fluctuation. Stress. He'd said. Your body's under a lot of stress. It happens. What if it wasn't stress? What if I'd been bleeding because he'd done something to me? Some procedure I'd never known about? The negative pregnancy tests. 3 years of trying. 3 years of hoping. 3 years of that monthly devastation when I'd see the negative result. Marcus would hold me while I cried. Tell me it would happen eventually. That we just needed to be patient. All while he knew. All while he'd made sure it would never happen. All while he'd been destroying my fertility and letting me blame myself for not getting pregnant. I sat in that coffee shop for hours, my untouched latte growing cold, and watched my entire marriage recontextualize itself. Every moment of trust became a moment of violation. Every gesture of love became manipulation. Every time I thought Marcus was caring for me, he'd been hurting me. And I'd never known. I'd never suspected. I'd never even questioned. Around 3 p.m. I finally called Dr. Chen's number. A receptionist answered. I need to make an appointment, I said, my voice shaking. Dr. Crawford referred me. It's urgent. Your name? Dr. Sarah Mitchell. A pause. Dr. Crawford mentioned you might call. Dr. Chen can see you today at 5 p.m. Can you make that? Yes. Come to the back entrance. Park in the garage. Dr. Chen will meet you there personally. The secrecy should have been comforting. Instead, it made everything feel more real, more serious, more dangerous. I had 3 hours to kill. I spent them driving aimlessly, my mind racing through 8 years of marriage, looking for signs I'd missed, looking for the moment Marcus had gone from husband to predator, wondering if he'd ever been anything but a predator wearing a husband's mask. At 4:45, I pulled into the medical building's parking garage, took the elevator to the 3rd floor. A woman was waiting by the back entrance, Asian, probably in her 50s, with kind eyes and an expression that said she'd seen too much of humanity's darkness. Sarah? She asked quietly. I nodded. I'm Lisa Chen, come with me. She led me through a back hallway into a private office, the door locked behind us. There were no windows, just soft lighting, comfortable furniture and medical equipment discreetly arranged in one corner. Dr. Crawford sent me your test results, Dr. Chen said, gesturing for me to sit. I've reviewed them, but before we go further, I need to know, are you safe at home? Is there any immediate danger? I don't know, I admitted. I've been avoiding going home. I called in sick to work. Marcus thinks I don't know what he thinks I am. Has he tried to contact you today? I checked my phone, 7 missed calls from Marcus, 12 texts, getting progressively more worried and then angry. Where are you? Sarah, answer me. I'm getting worried. This isn't like you. Are you okay? I'm calling the hospitals. Sarah, you're scaring me. If you don't respond in 1 hour, I'm calling the police. The progression from concern to control in those messages made my skin crawl. He's called a lot, I said quietly. Dr. Chen nodded. That's typical. Control and surveillance are part of this pattern. Sarah, I need your consent to examine you and document what's been done. It will be invasive, and it may be difficult, but if you want to pursue criminal charges, we need this evidence. Will it hurt? Not physically. I'll be gentle. But emotionally, She looked at me with compassion. Learning the full extent of what's been done to you will hurt. Are you ready for that? I thought about Marcus at home, probably pacing, making calls, organizing a search for his missing wife, playing the concerned husband while knowing exactly what he'd done to me. I'm ready, I said. I wasn't ready, but I was going to do it anyway. The examination took 2 hours. Dr. Chen was thorough, professional and kind. She explained everything before she did it, asked permission for every touch, photographed every injury, every scar, every sign of what had been done to me. When it was over, I was shaking, not from pain, from rage. I'm going to be direct with you, Dr. Chen said, pulling off her gloves. What's been done to you is extensive. Multiple procedures over what looks like 3 to 4 years. Your fallopian tubes have been deliberately scarred. Your uterine lining has been damaged. You've been given hormonal compounds that have affected your ovarian function. So I can't have children. My voice was flat. Not naturally. The damage is significant. IVF might be possible depending on how much your ovaries have recovered. But Sarah, you need to understand something. This wasn't just about sterilizing you. This was about control, about power, about someone systematically violating you in the most intimate way possible while making you believe he loved you. I sat there in the paper gown, and something broke inside me. Not sadness, not grief, pure white-hot fury. I want him destroyed, I said quietly. I want him in prison. I want his medical license revoked. I want everyone who thought he was perfect to know what he really is. Dr. Chen smiled grimly. Then let's make that happen. But we need to be smart about this. Marcus is well connected. He's respected. He'll have expensive lawyers and character witnesses. We need an airtight case. What do I do? First, we document everything with someone who can testify in court. She picked up her phone. I work with a detective who specializes in medical crimes. Detective Monica Williams. She's good. And she's relentless. Can I call her? Yes. Dr. Chen made the call. 20 minutes later, a black woman in her 40s walked into the office. She was tall, sharp-eyed and moved with the kind of confidence that came from being very good at her job. Dr. Mitchell, Detective Williams said, shaking my hand firmly. Lisa filled me in. I'm sorry for what you're going through, and I'm going to help you nail this bastard to the wall. Her directness was oddly comforting. For the next hour I told her everything. Every memory that had clicked into place. Every moment I'd dismissed. Every time Marcus had given me wine or vitamins or examined me at home. Every morning I'd woken up groggy and disoriented. Detective Williams took notes, asked questions, and her expression grew darker with every answer. This isn't his first time, she said finally. No one is this sophisticated on their first victim. He's perfected his technique, which means there are others. The thought made me sick. How do we find them? We'll get to that, but first we need to handle you. You can't go home tonight, Sarah. If Marcus suspects you know something, he could destroy evidence. Or worse. Worse? Men who commit this level of systematic abuse don't react well when their control is threatened. I've seen escalation, violence, even murder. We need to secure your safety first. He's never hit me. What he's done to your body is violence. He just made sure you were unconscious for it. Don't underestimate what he's capable of. I felt cold. So what do I do? Tonight you text him that you're staying at Nina's house because you're really sick and don't want to get him sick. Can you do that? He'll want to take care of me. He'll insist. Then tell him Nina's already taking care of you. That you're sleeping and you'll see him tomorrow. We need one night to get things in order. And then you go home. You act normal. And you help us gather evidence. I stared at her. You want me to go back there to pretend everything's fine? I know it's asking a lot. But Sarah, we need more than what we have. We need to catch him in the act. We need his own words confessing what he's done. We need evidence that no lawyer can dismiss or explain away. He's smart. He won't confess. People get arrogant when they think they're in control. Especially men like Marcus who've gotten away with this for years. If we set this up right, if we give him the right pressure, he'll crack. Dr. Chen touched my arm. Sarah, you don't have to do this. We can go to the police with what we have now. But Detective Williams is right. The more evidence we gather, the stronger the case. And if there are other victims, finding them strengthens everything. I thought about those other women who maybe didn't have a Dr. Crawford who noticed something wrong. Women who were still being violated, still trusting Marcus, still believing his lies. What would I have to do? Detective Williams leaned forward. Wear a wire. Let us install cameras in your home. Document every interaction, and if possible, get him to talk about what he's done. How? Tell him you've been having symptoms, that you're worried something's wrong with your fertility. See how he reacts. See if he gets nervous. Men like Marcus can't help themselves. They like to know they're in control. He might slip up. And if he doesn't, then we go with what we have. But Sarah, I think he will. Because you're his greatest success story. You're the wife he groomed and violated for years without ever suspecting. His ego won't let him keep that secret. Not if you ask the right questions. I looked between Dr. Chen and Detective Williams, two women who dedicated their careers to helping victims, two women who believed I could do this. Okay, I said. Tell me what to do. We spent another hour planning. Detective Williams would get the wire and cameras installed tomorrow while Marcus was at work. I would go home tonight, Act 6 sleep in the guest room. Tomorrow I'd let Marcus examine me, and every word would be recorded. It was 9 p.m. when I finally left Dr. Chen's office. I texted Marcus from the parking garage. I'm at Nina's, really sick. She's taking care of me, don't want to get you sick. I'll see you tomorrow, love you. The love you tasted like poison. Marcus responded immediately. Baby, I've been so worried, why didn't you answer your phone? I was about to call the hospitals. Sorry, was sleeping. Felt too sick to check my phone. I can come get you, take care of you. Nina's already got me settled. I'll be home tomorrow, promise. A long pause. Then okay, feel better, I love you. I stared at those words. I love you. From a man who'd been violating me for years. Who'd destroyed my fertility while pretending to want children with me. Who'd systematically abused me while playing the perfect husband. I drove to Nina's house for real because I couldn't face going to a hotel alone. She opened the door in pajamas, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. Can I stay here tonight? I'll explain everything. But I need to stay here. Of course, Sarah. You're scaring me. What's going on? I sat on her couch and told her everything. Dr. Crawford's discovery. The test results. Dr. Chen's examination. Detective Williams's plan. I watched my best friend's face go through shock, horror and fury. That motherfucker, Nina said when I finished. That absolute motherfucker. Sarah, I'm so sorry, I'm so fucking sorry. You warned me, I said. You said it was weird that he insisted on being my doctor. I thought it was boundary issues. Not, Jesus Christ, not this. Nina grabbed my hands. What do you need? Whatever you need, I'm here. I need to stay here tonight. Tomorrow I'm going home. Are you insane? You can't go back there. I have to. We need evidence. And there might be other women, Nina, other patients, other girlfriends. I can't let him keep doing this. Nina looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, but you don't do this alone. I'm coming with you tomorrow. I'll wait outside if I have to, but you're not facing him without backup. I started crying then, not because of Marcus, because Nina believed me, because she was ready to fight for me, because I wasn't alone. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me, just promise me you'll be safe. Promise me you won't let him hurt you anymore. I promise. I meant to keep that promise, but I had no idea how hard it would be, or how dangerous Marcus would become when he realized I knew his secret. I barely slept at Nina's house. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's face, his smile, his hands examining me, his voice saying, I love you. Each memory was contaminated now, poisoned by knowledge I couldn't unknow. Nina made me breakfast I couldn't eat. You don't have to do this, she said, for the 10th time. Yes, I do. The police could just arrest him, with what Dr. Chen documented. And his lawyers will say it's a misunderstanding, that I consented to experimental fertility treatments, that I'm a vindictive wife trying to ruin him. We need more, Nina. We need him to confess. At 8 a.m., Detective Williams texted, Tech team is at your house. Marcus left for work at 7:30. They'll be done in an hour. Come home at 9:30. I drove home in a daze. My home, except it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a crime scene I'd been living in for years without knowing. The tech team was just finishing when I arrived. 2 people in plain clothes installing tiny cameras and testing audio equipment. We've got coverage in every room, one of them explained. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom. Audio is crystal clear. Video feeds directly to Detective Williams. We'll be monitoring constantly. What about when he examines me? That's when it's most important. We'll have everything documented. If he does anything without your explicit consent, we've got it. They showed me the wire. Tiny microphone that clipped to my bra, virtually invisible under clothing. Keep it on at all times when you're home. Detective Williams instructed via video call. Even if you think he's not around. Especially then. After they left, I had 20 minutes before Marcus would come home for lunch. He always came home for lunch on Tuesdays. I used to think it was romantic that he wanted to spend his midday break with me. Now I knew he was checking on me, making sure I was where I was supposed to be, maintaining control. I put on the wire, made myself look sick, no makeup, rumpled clothes, hair messy, positioned myself on the couch with a blanket, and the TV on. At 12:15 I heard his car in the driveway. My heart started racing. I forced myself to breathe normally, to act natural. The door opened. "Sarah? Baby. I'm home." "In here," I called, making my voice weak. Marcus came into the living room, concern etched on his handsome face. He sat beside me, felt my forehead, looked into my eyes with that professional assessment I'd once found reassuring. "You still look terrible," he said. "What's going on? What are your symptoms?" "Just really nauseous. Tired. My stomach's been cramping." His eyes sharpened. "Cramping how? Where?" "Lower abdomen. It's probably nothing. Maybe my period coming." "When was your last period?" I told him. He calculated, and something flickered across his face. Something I might have missed, if I wasn't looking for it. Concern, or worry that I was noticing something wrong. "Let me examine you," he said, "just to make sure everything's okay." This was it. The moment Detective Williams said would be crucial. I hesitated just enough to seem reluctant. "I'm really tired, Marcus. Can it wait?" "Sarah, if something's wrong with your reproductive system, we need to catch it early. You know that. Come on, let's just take a quick look." The way he said reproductive system made my skin crawl. Because he knew exactly what was wrong with it. He'd made sure of it. "Okay," I said, letting him help me up. We went to our bedroom, the same bedroom where this had been happening for years, where Marcus had violated me while I was unconscious, where I'd trusted him completely. The camera was hidden in the smoke detector. I kept my eyes away from it. "Lie down," Marcus said, his voice taking on that clinical tone. "Let me see what's going on." I lay down on our bed. Marcus pulled out his medical bag, always kept in our closet for convenience. He snapped on gloves. "This might be uncomfortable," he said, like he always did. He examined me. I forced myself to stay still, to not flinch away from his touch. Every moment felt like violation, even though I was awake and aware this time. Marcus said after a few minutes. "Everything looks normal. No obvious issues." "Then why have I been feeling so bad?" "Probably stress. You work too hard, Sarah. Your body's trying to tell you something." "What about getting pregnant?" I asked, watching his face carefully. "We've been trying for 3 years. Should we see a fertility specialist?" His expression didn't change. "We don't need a specialist. I am a specialist. I've been monitoring your fertility. Everything's fine. We just need to be patient." "But 3 years, Marcus. That seems like a long time." "Not necessarily. Many couples take longer. Your body just needs the right conditions." He pulled off the gloves, threw them away. "Keep taking your vitamins. Stay healthy. It'll happen." The vitamins. The ones that were probably destroying what was left of my fertility. "I've actually been thinking about stopping the vitamins," I said carefully. "They make me feel weird. Kind of drowsy." Marcus's eyes sharpened. "Drowsy?" "Yeah, like really tired about an hour after I take them." "That's normal. They have high doses of certain minerals that can make you sleepy, but you need to keep taking them, Sarah, for your fertility." "What if we tried without them for a while, just to see?" "No." His voice was firm. "Sarah, you trust me, right? I'm your doctor. I know what's best for your body. Keep taking the vitamins." There it was, recorded, him insisting I take medication that was harming me, disguised as medical care. "Okay," I said meekly. "I trust you." Something in his expression relaxed, satisfied he'd reasserted control. "Good girl," he said and kissed my forehead. "Now rest." I need to get back to work. There's soup in the fridge for dinner. I'll be home by 6. After he left, I lay on the bed for 10 minutes, shaking. Detective Williams texted. We got it. Good work. Stay strong. But I didn't feel strong. I felt contaminated, violated all over again, even though this time I'd been awake and aware. I got up and went to Marcus's home office. The place I usually avoided because it was his space. Now with cameras recording, I had permission to be here. The file cabinet was locked, like always, but I'd learned to pick locks from my brother back when we were kids. Sneaking into each other's rooms, it took 3 minutes to get it open. Inside were files, dozens of them, organized, labeled, color-coded, Marcus's meticulous system. I pulled out the file with my name, Sarah Mitchell, Fertility Intervention Project. That's what he'd titled it, like I was an experiment, like destroying my ability to have children was research. Inside were notes, detailed medical notes documenting every procedure he'd done to me without my consent, dates, times, methods, photos of me unconscious, measurements of tissue damage, notes about hormone levels, and how they responded to different medications. Subject continues to trust intervention regimen. No awareness of permanent sterilization process. Recommend continuing current protocol. I photographed every page with my phone, my hands shaking so badly I had to restart several times. Then I found other files. Other women's names. At least 15 of them. Jennifer Morrison, college girlfriend. Rachel Thompson, ex-fiancée. Amanda Lee, medical school classmate. And more. So many more. Each file documented the same thing. Systematic sterilization, hormone manipulation, procedures done without consent. Some files were marked unsuccessful, women who'd left him before he could complete his project. Others were marked complete. Mine was marked complete. I photographed every file, my stomach churning. This wasn't just about me. This was a pattern spanning over 15 years. Marcus had been doing this since medical school. How many women had he destroyed? How many had blamed themselves for not getting pregnant, never knowing their own doctor had made sure they couldn't? I was putting the files back when I heard the garage door open. Marcus was home early. I barely had time to lock the cabinet and slip out of the office before he walked through the door. Sarah? What are you doing up? You should be resting. I needed water, I said, holding up an empty glass I'd grabbed from the kitchen, feeling a little better. He studied me for a long moment, his eyes searching my face. Did he suspect? Could he tell? Good? He finally said. That's good. Go rest. I just forgot something. He went into his office. I heard him moving around, checking things. I held my breath, terrified he'd noticed the file cabinet had been opened. 2 minutes later he emerged with a folder and a satisfied expression. Just a patient file I need to review. See you tonight, baby. After he left again, I texted Detective Williams. I found files on other victims, at least 15 women. I photographed everything. Her response was immediate. Send everything to this secure email. Don't keep any of it on your phone. And Sarah, be extremely careful. If Marcus suspects you've found those files, he will not react well. I sent the photos, then deleted them from my phone. Cleared the deleted folder, checked 3 times to make sure there was no trace. But I couldn't delete them from my mind. Those women's names, those detailed notes, the clinical way Marcus had documented destroying their fertility like it was a scientific experiment. My husband wasn't just an abuser. He was a predator who'd been using his medical license to systematically harm women for over a decade. And I was going to make sure everyone knew it. That night, Marcus came home with flowers. Roses, my favorite. He made dinner, poured wine, asked about my day with that attentive concern that used to make me feel loved. Now it made my skin crawl. I picked up my food, claiming I still felt sick. I didn't touch the wine, saying it would upset my stomach. Marcus frowned, but didn't push. You really need to take better care of yourself, he said. You're running yourself down. Maybe you should cut back your hours at the hospital. I love my work. I know, baby. But is it more important than your health, than starting a family? The irony was crushing. He was talking about starting a family while actively preventing it from happening. You're right, I said, playing along. Maybe I should scale back. He smiled, satisfied. Control reasserted. After dinner he insisted on examining me again. Just to check on those cramps, he said. This time, I pretended to take the medication he offered. For the cramping, he explained. Held it under my tongue until he looked away, then spit it into a tissue. I let him examine me, let him touch me, fought every instinct to scream, to fight back, to tell him I knew. Stay calm. Stay in character. Get the evidence. Everything looks fine, Marcus said when he finished. But I want you to rest tomorrow. Take the day off. Doctor's orders. Okay. That night, in bed, Marcus reached for me. I've missed you, he murmured. You've been so distant lately. I've been sick. I know, but you're getting better now. His hands moved over me, possessive, controlling. Let me take care of you. I couldn't do it. I couldn't let him touch me intimately. Not now. Not knowing what I knew. Marcus, I really don't feel well. Can we just sleep? His expression darkened for just a moment. Irritation, anger, then it smoothed into understanding. Of course, rest. We have plenty of time. But I saw it, that flash of anger when I denied him. Control threatened, even in this small way. He fell asleep quickly. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the wire against my skin, knowing Detective Williams's team was listening, watching, documenting. At 2 a.m. I couldn't take it anymore. I slipped out of bed and went downstairs. Needed air, needed space, needed to not be in the same room as him. I was sitting in the dark kitchen when my phone buzzed. Detective Williams. Can't sleep? No. I don't blame you. Sarah, what you're doing is incredibly brave. But I need to ask, can you keep doing this? We have good evidence now. We can move forward if you need to stop. I thought about those 15 files. 15 women who didn't know what Marcus had done to them, who were probably blaming themselves, thinking their bodies had failed them, never suspecting they'd been deliberately harmed. How long do we need? Ideally, a few more days. If we can get him to talk about what he's done, even obliquely, it makes the case unshakable. But if you can't, I can. What do I need to do? Tomorrow, tell him you found something online about fertility issues. Say you're worried. See if you can get him to talk about your treatment. Push a little. See if he gets defensive or nervous. Okay. Sarah. If at any point you feel unsafe, you use the code word. Say, I need to call my mother. That's the extraction signal. We'll have officers there in under 2 minutes. Understood. I went back to bed. Marcus stirred when I slipped under the covers. Where were you? His voice was alert, not sleepy. He'd been awake, monitoring. Bathroom. Couldn't sleep. He pulled me against him, his arm heavy across my waist. Possessive. Controlling. I love you, he murmured. I couldn't say it back. Good night, Marcus. If he noticed the omission, he didn't mention it. The next morning, Marcus left for work at his usual time. The moment his car left the driveway, I was back in his office. I needed more. Detective Williams said we had good evidence, but I wanted overwhelming evidence. I wanted it to be impossible for Marcus to explain this away. I found his computer password in his desk drawer, written on a post-it note because Marcus, for all his intelligence, was careless about some things. Or maybe just arrogant. He'd never thought anyone would look. His computer opened like a gift of evidence. Emails. Dozens of them. To suppliers of medical equipment, orders for hormones, sedatives, surgical tools, all sent to a P.O. box, not his office. Research papers he downloaded about fertility manipulation, about scarring techniques, about hormone protocols, and a folder labeled documentation. I clicked it open. Videos. Dozens of videos. My hand trembled on the mouse. I didn't want to click, didn't want to see, but I had to know. The first video was dated 4 years ago. It showed a woman unconscious on an examination table. The camera angle suggested it was mounted, recording from a fixed position. Marcus's voice narrated what he was doing, clinical and detached, like he was making an educational video. Subject A. Procedure 3. Continuing protocol to induce scarring in the left fallopian tube. I couldn't watch more than 30 seconds. My stomach revolted. The second video was similar. Different woman. Same clinical narration. The third video showed me. I was on our bed, unconscious, while Marcus performed a procedure. He was talking to the camera, explaining his technique, noting my responses. Sarah has proven to be the ideal subject. Complete trust. No suspicion despite 3 years of intervention. Sterilization is nearly complete. I turned away from the screen and vomited in his office trash can. When I could breathe again, I copied everything to an external hard drive. Every email, Every video, every damning piece of evidence that Marcus had documented his own crimes, probably for research purposes or maybe just as trophies. I was uploading everything to Detective Williams's secure server when I heard the garage door. Marcus was home again, middle of the morning. He never came home mid-morning. I barely had time to close the computer, shove the external drive in my pocket, and get out of his office. I was in the kitchen pretending to make tea when he walked in. Sarah. His voice was cold, different. We need to talk. About what? I tried to keep my voice steady. Dr. Crawford called my office this morning. Said he's been trying to reach you about some test results, urgent test results that he wants to discuss in person. My blood ran cold. Oh, yeah, he did call. I've been meaning to call him back. Why did you see Dr. Crawford? I'm your gynecologist. I wanted a second opinion about why we're not getting pregnant. I didn't think you'd mind. Marcus's expression was carefully controlled, but I could see rage simmering underneath. And what did Dr. Crawford find? He said everything looked fine, just wanted to run some additional tests. What kind of tests? I don't know. He didn't specify. Marcus moved closer, too close, invading my space in a way he'd never done before. His voice dropped low, dangerous. You're lying to me, Sarah. I can tell when you're lying. What did Dr. Crawford really say? This was it. The moment when Marcus's control was threatened and his mask started to slip. I thought about the code word, about extraction, about ending this now. But I also thought about those 15 files, those 30-something women in the videos, all the victims who needed justice. He said I have scarring. I said quietly. In my uterus. He said it looks like someone performed procedures without my knowledge. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Shock, calculation, anger, then finally resignation. So, you know, he said finally. And everything changed. Marcus didn't move, didn't threaten, just stood there watching me with an expression I'd never seen before. Clinical. Assessing. Like I was a specimen under a microscope. How long have you known? He asked. My mind raced. The wire was recording every word. The cameras were capturing everything. Detective Williams' team was listening. I needed to keep him talking. Just a few days, I said. Since the appointment with Dr. Crawford. And you didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to believe it. Marcus laughed. It was a hollow sound. But now you do believe it. You've been snooping, haven't you? In my office. In my files. No point denying it. Yes. How much did you find? Enough. He nodded slowly, like he was processing this information, running calculations. Sarah, sit down. Let me explain. Explain what? How you've been drugging me, performing procedures on me without consent? Destroying my fertility while pretending to want children? It's more complicated than that. How is it complicated, Marcus? You violated me. For years, you made me trust you and then you hurt me in the worst possible way. I never hurt you. His voice was sharp. Everything I did was professional, clinical, carefully controlled. You never felt pain, you never even knew. That doesn't make it okay, doesn't it? He moved to the kitchen counter, poured himself water. Calm. Too calm. Sarah, you're a doctor. You understand medical intervention. Sometimes patients don't know what's best for them. Sometimes doctors have to make decisions for them. Not without consent. Never without consent. Consent is a social construct, a legal formality. What matters is outcome, and the outcome was perfect until Dr. Crawford interfered. I stared at him. This wasn't the man I'd married, or maybe it was, and I'd just never seen him clearly until now. Why? I asked. Why did you do this to me, to all those other women? All what other women? I found the files, Marcus. 15 women, maybe more. You've been doing this since medical school. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, and it was the most chilling thing I'd ever seen. You really did go through everything, didn't you? Thorough. I always admired that about you, Sarah. Your attention to detail. Answer the question, why? He leaned against the counter, considering. Do you know what power really is? It's not money or status or influence. It's control over life itself. Over creation. Women have that power naturally. They can create life, end it. Decide whether it happens or not. That's terrifying. That's too much power for anyone to have without oversight. So you decided to take it away. I decided to balance things. To conduct research on reproductive control. To understand how women's fertility could be managed. For the greater good. The greater good. Marcus, you sterilized women without their knowledge. You destroyed their lives. I gave them freedom, he said calmly. Freedom from the burden of reproduction. Freedom from the expectations of motherhood. They just didn't know to thank me for it. I felt like I was looking at a stranger. Or maybe I was seeing clearly for the first time. You're insane. I'm visionary. There's a difference. Sarah, you could have been part of this. You could have understood the research, the importance of what I was doing. Instead, you had to go and ruin everything with your sentimentality. I didn't ruin anything. You did. The moment you violated me, the moment you violated all those women. He pushed off from the counter and I tensed. But he just walked to the window, looked out at our yard.
They're out there, aren't they? Police.
Listening, recording all of this, my heart stopped. What? Please, Sarah, I'm not stupid. Dr. Crawford finds something wrong and suddenly you're acting strange. Taking days to come home? Not drinking wine, refusing intimacy. Obviously you've been working with law enforcement. Marcus, it's fine. I knew this day might come eventually. I have contingency plans. He turned to face me. The question is, what do you want? Really? I want you in prison. I want you to never hurt another woman again. That's not going to happen. You don't have enough evidence. Everything I did was carefully documented as fertility treatment. My word as a respected physician against yours. Who do you think they'll believe? They'll believe the videos, Marcus. The ones you made of yourself performing procedures on unconscious women, including me. His expression flickered. You found those. I copied everything, sent it to the police. Your emails, your files, your videos, all of it. For the first time Marcus looked uncertain. Afraid. You shouldn't have done that, Sarah. Why? Because now you can't explain it away. Can't pretend it was legitimate medical treatment? Because now I have nothing to lose. His voice dropped. I was trying to be civilized about this, trying to help you understand. But if you've really sent everything to the police, then this is already over for me. Something in his tone made me step back. Marcus, don't do anything stupid. Stupid would have been letting you walk around for 3 days gathering evidence without realizing it. Smart is making sure that evidence doesn't matter. He moved toward me and I ran. I made it to the living room before he caught my arm, yanked me back. I fought, using every self-defense technique I'd learned, but Marcus was stronger, heavier, and desperate. I'm sorry it had to be this way, he said, his arm around my throat. I really did love you, Sarah, in my own way, but you forced my hand. The pressure on my throat increased. I clawed at his arm, struggling to breathe, to scream. I need to call my mother, I gasped. The code word, the extraction signal. No one's calling anyone, Marcus said. Then the front door exploded inward. Police flooded into the house like water through a broken dam. Detective Williams was first through the door, weapon drawn, shouting commands. Let her go, hands up, now. Marcus's arm loosened slightly. I wrenched myself free, stumbling forward. An officer caught me, pulled me behind the line of police. Down on the ground. Face down, hands behind your back. Marcus stood there for a moment, looking at the 6 guns pointed at him, and I saw him make a calculation. Fight or surrender. His eyes found mine. This isn't over, he said quietly. Then he lay down on the floor and let them cuff him. Detective Williams came to me as they were hauling Marcus up. Are you hurt? Did he hurt you? I touched my throat. It was sore but not badly damaged. I'm okay. You did good, Sarah. We got everything. His confession about the research, about the other women, about doing this deliberately, combined with the videos and files you sent us. This case is airtight. I watched Marcus being led out in handcuffs. He turned back to look at me one last time, and there was no love in his eyes, no warmth, just cold calculation, like he was already working on his next move. He said he has contingency plans. I told Detective Williams. Let him have plans. He's going to prison for a very long time. There's no plan that can save him from what he's done. An EMT checked me over, documenting the bruises on my throat where Marcus had grabbed me. More evidence. More documentation. Nina arrived 20 minutes later, having seen the police cars from down the street. She ran to me, pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. Oh my God. Oh my God. Sarah, are you okay? Did he hurt you? I'm okay, it's over. He's arrested. Thank God. Thank God. She pulled back, looked at my throat, and her eyes went murderous. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to actually kill him. Get in line, Detective Williams said. But let's do it legally, through the justice system. The house was now a crime scene. Crime scene techs were photographing everything, collecting evidence. I couldn't stay there, couldn't be in the place where Marcus had violated me for so long. Come stay with me, Nina insisted. As long as you need, forever if you want. I nodded, too exhausted to argue. Detective Williams pulled me aside before I left. Sarah, we're going to need you to testify. It's going to be hard. His lawyers are going to try to discredit you, to make it seem like you're a vindictive wife. Are you prepared for that? Yes. Good. Because this is going to get ugly. Marcus comes from money. His family has connections. They're going to fight this with everything they have. I don't care, I want him in prison. I want his medical license revoked. And I want to find the other women. They deserve to know what he did to them. We're already working on that. We identified 12 women from the files and videos. We're contacting them now. Some of them, she paused. Some of them are going to be devastated when they find out. I know, but they need to know. They need to understand it wasn't their fault. That their bodies didn't fail them. That they were deliberately harmed by someone they trusted. Detective Williams nodded. You're strong, Sarah. Stronger than I think you know. I didn't feel strong. I felt shattered. But I was still standing, still fighting, and I wasn't going to stop until Marcus paid for every woman he'd hurt. At Nina's house, she settled me on the couch with tea and blankets, treating me like I was fragile. Maybe I was. What happens now? Nina asked. Now we build the case. Gather all the evidence, find the other victims, prepare for trial. And you, what do you need? Therapy. Lots of therapy. A divorce lawyer, and probably a good long cry. The crying you can do right now, Nina said. The rest we'll handle tomorrow. So I cried. For hours. For the marriage that had been a lie. For the years I'd lost trusting someone who was hurting me. For my destroyed fertility. For the children I'd never have. For all the women Marcus had violated. For the innocence I'd never get back. Nina held me through all of it. Not saying anything, just being there. Being the friend I desperately needed. My phone rang at 10 p.m. Dr. Crawford. Sarah. I heard about Marcus's arrest. Are you okay? I'm alive. That's something. I'm so sorry. If I'd known what finding those test results would trigger. Don't apologize. You saved my life. You saved all of us. If you hadn't noticed something was wrong, Marcus would still be doing this. To me, to God knows how many others. Still, I wish I'd caught it sooner. Wish I'd been more suspicious the moment you said your husband was your gynecologist. It's not your fault, Dr. Crawford. It's Marcus's fault. Only his. I know. But I wanted you to know. I'm here if you need anything. Medical support, testimony, whatever. I'm on your side. Thank you. That means everything. After we hung up, I stared at my phone. Thought about all the people who would be on my side. Dr. Crawford, Detective Williams, Nina, my colleagues at the hospital, my family, and all the people who wouldn't believe me, who would think I was lying, who would say Marcus was too good, too respected, too perfect to do something like this. The fight hadn't even started yet, and I was already exhausted. Over the next few days, Detective Williams's team worked quickly. They contacted the women in Marcus's files. 8 of them agreed to come forward. The others were too traumatized, too scared, or simply didn't believe that their trusted doctor had betrayed them so completely. I met with the 8 women who agreed to press charges. We gathered at Detective Williams' office, and it was like looking in a mirror 8 times over. All of us with the same story. All of us had trusted Marcus. All of us had been violated without knowing. Jennifer Morrison, his college girlfriend, was 40 now. I always wondered why I couldn't have children, she said, tears streaming down her face. I blamed myself, thought my body was broken, went through hell with my husband because I couldn't give him kids. And it was Marcus all along. Rachel Thompson, the ex-fiancée, had left Marcus because of his controlling behavior. He wanted me to get routine checkups from him constantly. I thought it was weird, but I didn't know what he was actually doing to me. Amanda Lee, the medical school classmate, looked haunted. We were friends, good friends. I trusted him completely, and he used that trust to destroy my fertility. How do you come back from that? Each story was variations on the same theme: trust, violation, betrayal, and fertility stolen without consent. We're going to make him pay, I told them. Every single one of us is going to testify. We're going to show the world what he really is. They nodded, but I could see the fear, the doubt, the shame that shouldn't be theirs but that they carried anyway. This isn't our fault, I said firmly. None of this is our fault. Marcus is a predator who used his medical license as a weapon. He chose us because we trusted him. That doesn't make us weak. That makes him evil. Detective Williams outlined the timeline. The DA is moving fast. They want this to trial as soon as possible before Marcus's lawyers can muddy the waters too much. Arraignment is in 3 days. Trial will probably be in 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of waiting. Half a year of knowing Marcus was out there, building his defense, trying to destroy our credibility. Will he get bail? Someone asked. We're arguing for remand without bail. Given the seriousness of the charges and the number of victims, we think we have a good chance. But I can't guarantee it. That night, alone in Nina's guest room, I let myself feel the full weight of what was coming. The trial, the testimony, the public exposure, my entire private medical history becoming public record, every intimate detail of my marriage dissected in court, and Marcus's lawyers trying to destroy me on the stand, trying to make me look like a liar, a cheater, a vindictive ex-wife making false accusations. I wasn't sure I was strong enough for what was coming. But I had to be, because 8 other women were counting on me, because dozens more might be out there, undiscovered victims who deserve justice, because Marcus needed to pay for every life he'd destroyed. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I know what Marcus did to you. He did it to me too. 3 years ago I didn't think anyone would believe me, so I never reported it, but I'll testify if it helps. You're not alone. Emma Rodriguez. I stared at that message and something shifted inside me. Resolve, determination, rage channeled into purpose. We weren't alone. There were more of us, and together we were going to make sure Marcus Mitchell never hurt another woman again. The fight was just beginning. The arraignment was surreal. I sat in the gallery with the other victims, watching Marcus stand before the judge in an orange jumpsuit. He looked smaller somehow. Diminished. Not the confident doctor I'd married, but just another defendant facing serious charges. The charges were read out loud. 23 counts of assault, 15 counts of administering drugs without consent, 8 counts of performing medical procedures without consent, multiple counts of fraud, medical malpractice and abuse of professional position. Marcus pled not guilty to everything. His lawyer, a slick man named Richard Brennan who cost more per hour than most people made in a week, argued for bail. Your Honor, Dr. Mitchell is a respected member of the medical community with deep roots in this city. He has no criminal record. He's not a flight risk. These charges are the result of a domestic dispute that has been blown out of proportion. The prosecutor, Angela Hayes, cut him off. Your Honor, the defendant systematically violated at least 15 women over a period of 12 years. He documented his crimes in videos and files. He assaulted his wife when she discovered what he'd done. He is absolutely a danger to the community, particularly to female patients who might seek his medical care. We strongly oppose bail. The judge reviewed the evidence summary, watched a clip from one of Marcus's videos, his clinical narration describing a procedure being performed on an unconscious woman. The judge's expression hardened.
Bail is denied.
The defendant will remain in custody pending trial. Given the nature and scope of these charges, I find substantial evidence of danger to the community. Marcus's mother, sitting behind the defense table, let out a sob. His father's face remained stony. They'd shown up to support him, of course, still believing in his innocence, still convinced their perfect son couldn't have done these terrible things. I wondered how long that belief would last once they saw the evidence. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Somehow the story had leaked. Prominent gynecologist accused of systematic abuse was the headline on every news site. Detective Williams shielded us from the cameras, getting us into unmarked cars and away from the media circus. This is going to get worse before it gets better, she warned. Marcus's defense team is going to try this case in the media. They're going to leak information designed to make you all look bad. Be prepared. She was right. By that evening the counter-narrative was already forming. Anonymous sources told reporters that I was a bitter wife angry about an affair, that I'd found out Marcus was leaving me and fabricated evidence to destroy him, that the other women were jumping on a bandwagon seeing an opportunity for attention and money. My phone exploded with messages, friends and colleagues, some supportive, others questioning, is it true? Did this really happen? Why didn't you say something sooner? The worst was my mother. Sarah, please tell me this isn't true. Marcus. Our Marcus. He was always so good to you. Are you sure you're not misunderstanding something? Even she doubted me. My own mother. Mom, he violated me for years. He destroyed my fertility. There's video evidence of him doing it. But why would he do that? It doesn't make sense. You two were so happy together. We weren't happy, Mom. I just didn't know how unhappy I was because he was drugging me and controlling every aspect of my life. Silence on the other end. Then, I need time to process this. She hung up. Nina found me crying in the bathroom. An hour later, screw your mother, screw anyone who doesn't believe you. You know the truth. We know the truth. That's what matters. What if the jury doesn't believe me? They'll believe you. They'll believe all of you. Sarah, you have video evidence of Marcus confessing. You have his own documentation of his crimes. How could they not believe you? But I knew how. I'd seen it happen in other cases. Victims blamed. Predators defended. Reasonable doubt weaponized to protect the guilty. The next 6 months were hell. Marcus's defense team filed motion after motion, trying to suppress evidence. They argued that the videos were taken out of context, that the procedures Marcus performed were legitimate fertility treatments that I'd consented to and then forgotten due to psychological issues. They brought in expert witnesses who testified that women in unhappy marriages often developed false memories of abuse, that I was a hysterical female doctor who couldn't handle the stress of my career, and was projecting onto my innocent husband. They argued that I'd broken into Marcus's office illegally, that the evidence I'd gathered was inadmissible, that my entire story was a fabrication designed to cover up my own professional failures. It was exhausting. Demoralizing. Every day brought new attacks on my character, my credibility, my sanity. But then Emma Rodriguez came forward. Then another woman. Then another 12 women total now. All with the same story. All with medical records showing unexplained procedures. All with Marcus's files documenting what he'd done to them. The defense couldn't explain that away. They tried, claiming it was a conspiracy of vindictive women. But the evidence kept mounting. Medical experts confirmed the procedures were unnecessary and harmful. Forensic analysis proved the videos were authentic and unedited. Finally, 6 months after Marcus's arrest, the trial began. The courtroom was packed. Media, victims, Marcus's family and supporters, my colleagues from the hospital, there to show support. Jury selection took 3 days. The defense tried to eliminate anyone who'd been a victim of medical abuse or knew someone who had. They wanted a jury that would be skeptical of women's testimony, that would trust a respected doctor over his accusers. But Angela Hayes was smart. She got a jury that was balanced, educated and willing to look at evidence objectively. Opening statements were devastating. Angela laid out the case methodically, showing the pattern of abuse, the documentation, the systematic nature of Marcus's crimes. Over the next few weeks you're going to see something disturbing. Angela told the jury, you're going to see a man who used his position as a physician to violate women in the most intimate way possible. You're going to hear from 15 victims. You're going to see videos of Dr. Marcus Mitchell performing procedures on unconscious women while narrating what he's doing. Like it's a medical demonstration. You're going to read his files documenting his research into reproductive control. And you're going to have to ask yourselves, is this a good doctor being falsely accused? Or is this a predator who spent years perfecting his technique for harming women without them knowing? The defense's opening statement tried to paint Marcus as a dedicated physician who'd made his wife his life's work, trying to help her conceive. Dr. Mitchell loved his wife. He wanted to give her the child she desperately wanted. Yes, he performed procedures. Yes, he administered medications, but everything was done with her implied consent, as part of their intimate relationship. This is a case of a marriage gone wrong, and a bitter wife seeking revenge. Then came the evidence. Video after video of Marcus performing procedures on unconscious women. His own voice narrating, clinical and detached. The jury watched in shocked silence. Next came the files. Pages and pages of Marcus's notes documenting each victim, each procedure, each successful sterilization. Subject completely unaware of permanent intervention. Highly satisfactory result. Then the victims testified. One by one we took the stand and told our stories. Jennifer Morrison described trusting her college boyfriend, never suspecting he was secretly destroying her fertility. Rachel Thompson talked about the controlling behavior that made her leave, never knowing the full extent of what Marcus had done to her. Amanda Lee broke down on the stand, describing how she'd blamed herself for being unable to have children, how it had ruined her marriage, how she'd thought her body had failed her when really Marcus had failed her. Each testimony was powerful, heartbreaking, undeniable. Finally, it was my turn to take the stand. I walked to the witness box on shaking legs, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth, and then I told them everything. The courtroom was silent as I testified. Every eye was on me and I felt exposed in a way I'd never experienced before. Every intimate detail of my marriage, my body, my violation laid bare for strangers to judge. Angela Hayes walked me through it gently. Dr. Mitchell, please tell the jury how you met the defendant. I told them about medical school, about reconnecting at the conference, about the whirlwind romance that had seemed so perfect. When did Marcus first suggest being your gynecologist? Right after we got engaged. He said it was convenient, that he wanted to take care of me. I thought it was romantic. Did you ever question this arrangement? My friend Jennifer suggested it was a boundary issue, but I dismissed her concerns. I trusted Marcus completely. When did Marcus start giving you vitamins? 3 years ago when we decided to start trying for a baby. Did he tell you what was in these vitamins? He said they were fertility supplements, high-dose minerals and hormones to help my body prepare for pregnancy. Did they make you feel any particular way? Yes. About an hour after taking them, I'd feel very drowsy, tired. Marcus said that was normal. Angela walked me through the years of grogginess, the unexplained bleeding, the negative pregnancy tests, Marcus's assurances that everything was fine. The jury listened intently, some taking notes, others just watching my face. Then came the hard part. Dr. Mitchell, please tell the jury what Dr. Crawford discovered during your examination. I described the scarring, the evidence of procedures, the hormone manipulation. My voice shook but I kept going. How did you feel when Dr. Crawford told you this? Disbelieving, shocked, terrified. I couldn't imagine that Marcus, my husband, would do something like this to me. Angela played the recording of Marcus's confession. His voice filled the courtroom, calm and clinical, describing his research into reproductive control, explaining how he'd balanced the power of female fertility by managing it, saying he'd given women freedom from the burden of reproduction. The jury's faces showed disgust, horror, disbelief. Then came the videos. Angela showed select clips, edited to protect the victim's privacy, but showing enough to prove Marcus had done exactly what we accused him of. Marcus's own voice narrating his techniques. Marcus's own hands performing procedures on unconscious women. When the videos finished, 3 jurors were crying. Dr. Mitchell, one final question. If you could say anything to the defendant right now, what would it be? I looked directly at Marcus for the first time since taking the stand. He was watching me with that clinical assessing expression. No remorse, no shame, just calculation. I would tell him that he didn't destroy me. He violated me. He hurt me. He stole something I can never get back. But he didn't destroy me. I'm still here. I'm still standing. And I'm going to make sure he never hurts another woman again. Angela sat down. Now came the part I'd been dreading. Richard Brennan stood up for cross-examination. He smiled at me, friendly and warm, like we were old friends. Dr. Mitchell, thank you for your testimony. I know this must be difficult for you. I didn't respond. I knew this tactic. Pretend to be sympathetic, then attack. Dr. Mitchell, you're a physician yourself, correct? Yes. An obstetrician gynecologist, in fact? Yes. So you have extensive knowledge of gynecological procedures, anatomy, medications? Yes. And yet you're claiming you had no idea these procedures were being performed on you. Is that correct? I was unconscious. Marcus was sedating me without my knowledge. But surely you would have noticed symptoms afterward. Soreness, bleeding, changes in your body. I did notice. Marcus explained them away. Said they were stress-related, or that we'd been intimate and I'd forgotten because of the wine. Yes, the wine. You claim Marcus was drugging your wine. Yes, but you drank it voluntarily? Yes, But I didn't know. You voluntarily consumed alcohol that made you drowsy. And then you're surprised you don't remember things clearly. He was putting sedatives in it. Do you have proof of that? Toxicology reports. No, because I didn't know to test for it at the time. So we only have your word that the wine was drugged. It's equally possible you simply drank too much and made poor decisions. Angela objected. Argumentative. Sustained, the judge said. But the damage was done. Brennan had planted the seed of doubt. He continued, asking about my marriage, my career stress, my relationship with Marcus, suggesting I'd been unhappy and was looking for someone to blame, implying I'd fabricated the whole story because I was angry about not getting pregnant. Isn't it true, Dr. Mitchell, that you were obsessed with having a baby, that you pressured Dr. Mitchell constantly about it? I wanted children, yes, but I didn't pressure. And when you couldn't get pregnant, you blamed Dr. Mitchell? No, I blamed myself. That's what Marcus wanted me to do. Or maybe you blamed him because it was easier than accepting your own fertility issues. And when Dr. Crawford suggested there might be scarring, you saw an opportunity to make Dr. Mitchell the villain in your story. That's not true. Isn't it? Isn't it true that you broke into Dr. Mitchell's private office? That you illegally accessed his computer and files? I was looking for evidence of what he'd done to me. You were violating his privacy, stealing his property, all to build a case against him because you were angry about your marriage falling apart. My marriage fell apart because my husband was violating me. Or your marriage fell apart because you were unhappy and looking for someone to blame. And you found old medical files and videos and recontextualized them to fit your narrative. I wanted to scream. To tell the jury this was exactly what Marcus's lawyer would do. Twist everything, blame the victim, make the predator seem reasonable. But I stayed calm. Those videos show Marcus performing procedures on unconscious women. There's no other context, no reasonable explanation. He did this to me, to 15 other women, and all of us can't be lying. Brennan smiled. Can't you? Isn't it possible that 15 women who all have fertility issues found each other and decided to blame a successful male doctor? That you created a conspiracy to destroy Dr. Mitchell's career and reputation? No, that's insane. Is it? Or is it more insane to believe that a respected physician spent 12 years systematically violating patients without anyone noticing? He was noticed, by Dr. Crawford, that's why we're here. By Dr. Crawford, who has his own practice and might benefit from destroying a competitor's reputation. Angela objected again. Speculation, no evidence of any conflict between Dr. Crawford and the defendant. Sustained. The cross-examination went on for 2 more hours. Brennan tried every tactic, suggesting I was mentally unstable, that my work stress had caused false memories, that I'd misinterpreted legitimate medical care as abuse. But I held firm because I knew the truth. And more importantly, the jury had seen the videos. They'd heard Marcus's own voice confessing. They'd seen his files documenting his crimes. When I finally stepped down from the witness box, I was exhausted. But I'd done it. I'd told my story. I'd faced Marcus and his lawyer, and I hadn't broken. The other victims testified after me. Jennifer, Rachel, Amanda, Emma, and 8 more women, each telling their story. Each confirming the pattern. The defense tried to discredit all of us. But 12 women with the same story, all with medical evidence, all with Marcus's own files documenting what he'd done to them, that was impossible to dismiss. The defense called character witnesses. Marcus's colleagues, who said he was an excellent doctor. His family, who said he was a loving husband and son. Patients who'd been satisfied with his care. But none of them could explain the videos, the files, the systematic documentation of crimes. Finally, closing arguments. Angela Hayes stood before the jury and laid it out plainly. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is not complicated. You have seen videos of Dr. Marcus Mitchell performing unauthorized procedures on unconscious women. You have heard his own voice confessing to systematic sterilization of his victims. You have read his files documenting each woman, each procedure, each successful intervention. You have heard from 15 women who all tell the same story of trust violation and betrayal. The defense wants you to believe this is all a conspiracy, that 15 women are all lying, that the videos are taken out of context. But you know the truth. Dr. Marcus Mitchell is a predator who used his medical license as a weapon. He violated women in the most intimate way possible, and he needs to face consequences for every single crime he committed. Richard Brennan's closing was predictable. He argued that Marcus was a dedicated physician who'd made his wife his patient out of love, that the procedures were experimental fertility treatments that had been misunderstood, that I was a vindictive ex-wife who'd rallied other women to destroy Marcus's life. But even Brennan looked like he knew it was hopeless. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the 4 women stood and read the verdict. On the count of assault in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of administering drugs without consent, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of performing medical procedures without consent, we find the defendant guilty. Guilty. On every single count. 23 counts total. Marcus's mother sobbed. His father sat stone-faced. Marcus himself showed no emotion. Just like clinical detachment. The judge remanded him immediately. No bail pending sentencing. As they led Marcus away in handcuffs, he looked at me one last time. "You won," he said quietly, "but you'll never recover from this. None of you will. I made sure of that." He was wrong. We would recover. We already were. Because we had each other, we had justice, and we had the satisfaction of knowing that Marcus Mitchell would spend the rest of his life in prison. The monster was finally caged. And we were finally free. The guilty verdict made national headlines. Prominent gynecologist convicted of systematic abuse. Doctor sentenced for violating 15+ women over 12 years. Medical community rocked by betrayal. My face was everywhere. So were the faces of the other victims who'd chosen to go public. We became the symbol of medical abuse, of violated trust, of women fighting back against predatory doctors. The support was overwhelming. Thousands of messages from survivors, from advocates, from people who finally understood that abuse could happen anywhere, even in a doctor's office, even in a marriage, even to educated professional women who should have known better. But there was also backlash. People who couldn't accept that Marcus had done this, who called us liars, attention seekers, gold diggers, who said we were destroying a good man's life for our own gain. Marcus's family held a press conference, his mother tearfully insisting her son was innocent, that he'd been railroaded by vengeful women and an overzealous prosecutor. "My son is a healer," she sobbed. "He dedicated his life to helping women. This is a travesty of justice." The medical community was divided. Some doctors expressed horror at Marcus's crimes and called for stricter oversight of physicians treating family members. Others quietly questioned whether the charges were exaggerated, whether we'd really been violated or just had regrets about our medical care. The hospital where Marcus had admitting privileges launched an investigation. They found 3 more victims, patients he'd seen for routine care, who'd later discovered unexplained procedures in their medical records. The hospital settled with them quickly, quietly, trying to avoid more publicity. Marcus's practice was shut down permanently. His medical license was revoked. His credentials were stripped. Everything he'd built over 20 years of medical practice was destroyed. Good. But the personal fallout was harder to navigate. My mother eventually came around, apologizing through tears for doubting me. "I just couldn't believe it," she said. "He seemed so perfect. I wanted so badly for you to be happy." "I know, Mom. He fooled everyone. That's what predators do." Some friends pulled away, uncomfortable with the media attention, with the intimate details that had become public knowledge. Others stepped up, offering support and solidarity. My career took a hit initially. Some colleagues looked at me differently, like I was damaged goods. But others respected what I'd done, fighting back against a predator even when it cost me everything. The worst part was the medical aftermath. Dr. Chen confirmed what I'd suspected. The damage Marcus had done was permanent. Natural pregnancy was impossible. IVF might work, but my chances were significantly reduced. "I'm sorry, Sarah," Dr. Chen said gently. "What Marcus did to you was designed to be irreversible. I grieved for the children I would never have, not because of biology or bad luck, but because my husband had deliberately stolen that possibility from me. But I found other ways to build a family, other ways to create meaning." 2 months after the conviction, I gathered with the other victims. We'd formed a support group, meeting weekly to process our trauma, to help each other heal, to plan our next steps. "We should do something," Jennifer said. "Use our experience to help others." "Like what?" Rachel asked. "A foundation, advocacy work, education for medical students about boundaries and consent, legislation to prevent doctors from treating family members without oversight." We all looked at each other. 15 women who'd been through hell, who'd lost fertility, marriages, Years of their lives to one man's crimes. But we were still here. Still fighting. Let's do it, I said. We created the Medical Consent Foundation, dedicated to preventing medical abuse and supporting victims. We lobbied for legislation Marcus's Law, requiring third-party oversight when doctors treated family members or intimate partners. We spoke at medical schools, teaching future doctors about the sacred trust between physician and patient, about the catastrophic harm that could be done when that trust was violated. We supported other victims who came forward with their own stories of medical abuse, helping them navigate the legal system, connecting them with resources, showing them they weren't alone. The work was healing, turning our trauma into purpose, using our pain to prevent others from experiencing the same violation. 6 months after the trial, sentencing day arrived. I stood in the courtroom with the other victims, waiting to address Marcus one final time. The judge looked down at Marcus with unconcealed disgust. Dr. Mitchell, you were given a position of tremendous trust and privilege. You used that position to systematically harm women over a period of 12 years. You violated their bodies, their autonomy, and their ability to make informed decisions about their own reproductive health. You showed no remorse, no understanding of the gravity of your crimes. In fact, you referred to your crimes as research, as if your victims were nothing more than experimental subjects. Marcus stood there, expressionless, still maintaining that clinical detachment. Before I pronounce sentence, I'm going to allow the victims to address you. They have earned that right. One by one we spoke. Jennifer described the years of pain, thinking her body had failed her. Rachel talked about her destroyed marriage, the blame and shame she'd carried. Amanda shared how learning the truth had actually been a relief. Her body hadn't failed her. She'd been deliberately harmed. When it was my turn, I looked at Marcus directly. You took 8 years of my life. 8 years where I trusted you completely, where I let you into the most intimate parts of my existence, where I believed you loved me. You used that trust as a weapon. You violated me in ways I'm still processing, ways I may never fully recover from. You stole my fertility, my sense of safety, my ability to trust, but you didn't destroy me. I'm still here. I'm still standing, and I've taken your crimes and turned them into purpose. Every woman we help, every law we pass, every future victim we prevent. That's your legacy, Marcus. Not your research, not your medical career, just the proof that even predators like you can be stopped. Even monsters can be caged. Marcus looked at me with that same calculating expression. Even now, even facing life in prison, he showed no remorse, no understanding, no humanity. The judge pronounced sentence. Dr. Marcus Mitchell, I hereby sentence you to 40 years in state prison on the assault charges, an additional 10 years for administering drugs without consent, another 10 years for medical malpractice and fraud, sentences to run consecutively. That's 60 years total. You will serve a minimum of 85% before being eligible for parole. At age 42, that means you'll be over 90 before you're even considered for release. Additionally, your medical license is permanently revoked. You are prohibited from any employment in healthcare. You will register as a medical abuse offender, and you will pay restitution to each of your victims. Amount to be determined. You will never practice medicine again. You will never harm another woman. Take him away. As the bailiffs led Marcus out, he turned back to look at us one final time. All 15 victims standing together supporting each other. He tried to isolate us to make each of us think we were alone in our suffering. Instead, he'd created a community of survivors who would spend the rest of our lives fighting for justice. It's over, Jennifer whispered beside me. No, I said. It's just beginning. The year after Marcus's sentencing was transformative. The Medical Consent Foundation grew beyond anything we'd imagined. We received grants from major healthcare organizations eager to distance themselves from Marcus's crimes. We partnered with medical schools to develop curriculum about boundaries and ethical care. We lobbied successfully for legislation in 12 states requiring third-party oversight when doctors treated intimate partners or family members. We called it Marcus's Law, and the irony wasn't lost on any of us. The man who'd spent 12 years systematically violating women had become the cautionary tale that would protect future generations. I threw myself into the work. It was easier than dealing with my personal life, which remained complicated and painful. The divorce from Marcus was finalized 6 months after his sentencing. His assets were seized to pay restitution to the victims. The house we'd shared was sold. The proceeds divided among the 15 women he'd harmed. I used my portion to fund the foundation. It felt right, turning Marcus's ill-gotten gains into something that would help others. My career at the hospital stabilized. Initially there'd been awkwardness, colleagues not knowing what to say, patients requesting different doctors because they'd seen me on the news. But gradually I rebuilt my reputation. I became known not just as Marcus Mitchell's victim but as Dr. Sarah Mitchell, advocate for patients' rights and medical ethics. I started dating again, tentatively. It was hard. Every man I met was measured against the husband who'd violated me for years. Every gesture of care was scrutinized for signs of control. Every time someone poured me a drink I panicked. Therapy helped. I'd been seeing Dr. Patricia Wilson weekly since the arrest. She specialized in medical trauma and helped me understand that my hypervigilance was normal, protective, and gradually would ease. "You're not broken," Dr. Wilson told me repeatedly. "You're healing. That takes time." 2 years after Marcus's conviction, I met someone, Dr. David Chen, an oncologist at the hospital. He was kind, patient, and most importantly, he understood boundaries. When I told him about Marcus on our third date, expecting him to run, he just listened. Then he said, "That must have been terrifying. I'm sorry you went through that, and I want you to know I will never pressure you for anything. You set the pace, always." We took things slowly. So slowly that it was almost a year before I felt comfortable enough to be physically intimate with him. David never pushed, never complained, never made me feel like I was damaged or difficult. "You're worth waiting for," he said simply. The other victims were on their own healing journeys. Jennifer had adopted 2 children and was finally at peace with not having biological kids. Rachel was engaged to a woman who'd supported her through the trial. Amanda was still single but had found fulfillment in her career and volunteer work with the foundation. We all stayed connected, meeting monthly for dinner, texting regularly, supporting each other through the hard days. We'd been through something terrible together, and that bond was unbreakable. 3 years after the conviction, we got news. Marcus had been attacked in prison by another inmate who'd learned about his crimes. He'd been beaten badly enough to require hospitalization and was now in protective custody. I waited to feel satisfaction, revenge. A sense that he'd gotten what he deserved. Instead, I felt nothing but sadness. Sadness that violence kept perpetuating. Sadness that our justice system couldn't protect even prisoners from assault. Sadness that Marcus would probably never understand the harm he'd caused, never feel genuine remorse, never be anything other than the monster he'd chosen to become. "How do you feel about it?" Jennifer asked at our next meeting. "Empty," I admitted. "I thought I'd feel vindicated, but I just feel sad that any of this happened at all." "That means you're healing," Rachel said. "You're not defined by what he did anymore. You've moved past it." She was right. Marcus didn't occupy my thoughts constantly anymore. I went days without thinking about him. My life wasn't about being his victim anymore. It was about being a doctor, an advocate, a partner to David, a friend to these incredible women. The foundation continued to grow. We'd helped over 200 women navigate medical abuse cases. Some went to trial, others settled. A few decided not to pursue legal action, but got therapy and support instead. Every choice was valid. Every survivor got to decide their own path to healing. We also launched a hotline for victims of medical abuse. The stories that came in were heartbreaking. So many women had been violated by doctors they trusted, in ways large and small. Some had been assaulted during exams. Others had procedures done without proper consent. Some, like us, had been systematically harmed over years. Each caller was treated with respect, believed without question, and connected with resources. We didn't judge. We didn't question. We just helped. Marcus's case had opened a door. Now women were speaking up about medical abuse in ways they never had before. Doctors were being held accountable. Hospitals were implementing better oversight. Medical boards were taking complaints more seriously. It wasn't perfect. The system was still flawed, still biased, still difficult to navigate. But it was better than before, and we'd been part of making it better. 4 years after the trial, I received a letter from Marcus. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Part of me wanted to burn it unread, but another part needed to know what he had to say after 4 years in prison. The letter was short, typed on prison stationery. "Sarah, I've been required to participate in therapy as part of my incarceration. My therapist says I need to take accountability for my actions. So this is me attempting to do that. I hurt you. I hurt many women. I violated your trust in your body in ways that were wrong. I told myself I was conducting important research, that I was serving a greater good, but my therapist has helped me understand that I was really just seeking control, power over others. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that I understand now what I did was criminal, abusive, and inexcusable. For what it's worth, I'm sorry, Marcus. I read it 3 times, trying to feel something: anger, relief, closure. But I just felt tired, because it was too little too late. Because sorry didn't undo the damage. Because Marcus understanding his crimes didn't give me back my fertility or my 8 years or my innocence. I showed the letter to Dr. Wilson in therapy. How does this make you feel? She asked. Like he still doesn't get it. He talks about understanding his crimes, but it's all clinical, detached. There's no real emotion there. No genuine remorse. Just words his therapist probably told him to write. Do you think he's capable of genuine remorse? I thought about Marcus's face at sentencing, that cold, calculating expression, the clinical detachment that had never wavered, even when facing 60 years in prison. No, I said, I don't think he is. I think he's fundamentally broken in a way that can't be fixed. He can learn to say the right words, but he'll never truly understand the pain he caused. Does that bother you? It used to. Now it just is. Marcus is who he is. I can't change that. I can only control how I respond to it. I didn't respond to the letter. Marcus didn't deserve my energy, my time, my thoughts. Instead, I focused on my life. On David, who'd proposed 6 months earlier. On my work at the hospital and with the foundation. On the women I was helping. The lives I was changing. The difference I was making. Marcus had tried to define me. To make me his victim, his subject, his experiment. But I'd taken that definition and torn it up. I wasn't Marcus Mitchell's victim anymore. I was Dr. Sarah Mitchell's survivor, advocate, and warrior for justice. That was my choice. My power. My reclamation. And nothing Marcus did or said could take that away from me. 5 years after Marcus's conviction, I stood in front of the Senate Health Committee, testifying about medical abuse prevention. The room was full of senators, staffers, advocates, and media. My hands should have been shaking, but I felt calm, centered, ready. Members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and I'm here to tell you why we need federal legislation addressing medical abuse. I told them my story. Not all of it. There wasn't time, but enough to show how a trusted physician could systematically violate patients without detection. Enough to show how the system had failed to protect vulnerable women. Enough to show why change was necessary. Marcus Mitchell violated at least 15 women over 12 years. He documented his crimes in videos and files. And yet he was never caught until one observant doctor noticed something wrong. Think about that. 12 years, 15 victims, and the system designed to protect patients failed completely. I outlined our proposals: mandatory third-party oversight when doctors treated intimate partners, better reporting mechanisms for suspected medical abuse, training for medical students about boundaries and consent, federal funding for victim support services. The senators asked questions. Some were skeptical. Wasn't this overreach? Would this create unnecessary bureaucracy? Could good doctors be falsely accused? I answered each question patiently. Yes, good doctors could be accused, but good doctors should welcome oversight because it protects them too. It proves their care was appropriate, and the alternative, allowing predatory doctors to continue harming patients, is simply unacceptable. After 3 hours of testimony, the committee chairman thanked me and said they'd take our proposals under advisement. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was progress. Outside the Capitol building, reporters swarmed. Dr. Mitchell, do you think the committee will pass this legislation? I hope so, but even if they don't, we'll keep fighting. We'll keep advocating. We'll keep supporting victims. This isn't just about one law. It's about changing how we think about medical care, consent, and accountability. Have you had any contact with Marcus Mitchell since his conviction? He sent me a letter. I didn't respond. My focus isn't on Marcus anymore. It's on the future, on preventing what happened to me from happening to others. Are you still practicing medicine? Yes. I'm an OB/GYN at Metropolitan Hospital, and I'm getting married next month. That last detail sparked a flurry of questions about David, about moving on, about whether I could really trust another man after what Marcus had done. Trust is earned, I said simply. David has earned mine, and that's all I have to say about my personal life. Jennifer and Rachel were waiting for me at a nearby cafe. We'd all come to DC for the testimony, supporting each other like we always did. You were amazing, Jennifer said, hugging me. Seriously, you're going to change the world. We're going to change the world, I corrected. All of us, together. We spent the afternoon walking around DC, talking about the foundation's growth, our personal lives, our ongoing healing. 5 years out from the trial, we were all in better places, still scarred, still healing but surviving, thriving. Even my wedding was small, intimate. Just close friends and family. The other victims came. Of course, they were my sisters now, bonded by trauma and survival. My mother walked me down the aisle, tears streaming down her face. She'd apologized so many times for initially doubting me. I'd forgiven her, understanding that it's hard to believe someone you love could be a monster. David waited at the altar, looking at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. When the officiant asked if he took me as his wife, he said, I do, with absolute certainty. And when it was my turn, I said I do, and meant it completely. Marcus hadn't destroyed my ability to love, to trust, to build a life. He just made me more careful about who deserved those gifts. At the reception, Jennifer gave a toast. Sarah has been through hell. We all have. But she didn't just survive, she transformed. She took the worst thing that ever happened to her and turned it into a mission to help others. She's saved hundreds of women through the foundation. She's changed laws. She's changed how medicine thinks about consent and abuse. And now she's found love again with someone who truly deserves her. Sarah, you're an inspiration to all of us, to everyone who's ever been hurt and wondered if they could heal. Here's to you, to David, and to the beautiful life you're building together. Everyone raised their glasses. I looked around the room at all these people who'd supported me, believed in me, fought alongside me. This was my life now. Not defined by Marcus or what he'd done, but defined by my choices, my work, my love, my purpose. 2 years later, David and I stood in an adoption agency, meeting our daughter for the first time. She was 6 months old, with huge brown eyes and the sweetest smile. Hello, Amara, I whispered, taking her in my arms. We've been waiting for you. Marcus had stolen my ability to have biological children, but he hadn't stolen my ability to be a mother, to love a child, to build a family. Amara looked up at me and laughed, her tiny hand gripping my finger. And in that moment I realized something profound. Marcus hadn't won. He'd taken things from me, yes. But he hadn't taken everything. He hadn't taken my strength, my resilience, my capacity for love, my ability to heal and help others heal. He was in prison, isolated, alone, spending every day in a cell. And I was here holding my daughter, surrounded by love, doing meaningful work that saved lives. Who really won? 7 years after Marcus's conviction, the federal legislation passed, the Medical Abuse Prevention and Accountability Act. It included everything we'd advocated for: third-party oversight, mandatory reporting, training requirements, victim support funding. It was nicknamed the Mitchell Law, and journalists asked how I felt about Marcus's name being attached to legislation that would prevent future abuse. It's fitting, I said. Marcus's crimes were so egregious that they forced systemic change. His name should be attached to that change. It's a reminder that predators can be stopped, that victims can fight back, that justice is possible. The foundation had helped over 500 women by then. We'd also started a scholarship program for women pursuing careers in medical ethics and patients' rights advocacy, turning trauma into opportunity for the next generation. I'd been promoted to chief of OB/GYN at Metropolitan Hospital. I still saw patients, but I also shaped policy, trained residents, and made sure the culture centered patient autonomy and consent. My life was full, rich, meaningful. 10 years after Marcus's conviction, I gave a TED Talk, From Victim to Victor, Reclaiming Power After Medical Abuse. I told my story to an audience of thousands, millions more watching online. I talked about trust and betrayal, about systematic abuse hidden behind professionalism, about the long road to healing, about transforming trauma into purpose. Marcus Mitchell thought he had power over me, I said, standing on that red circle. He controlled my body, my fertility, my life for 8 years. But here's what he didn't understand. He never controlled my spirit, my strength, my determination to survive and thrive. He took things from me, but he didn't take everything. That's what Marcus will never understand from his prison cell. He destroyed lives. But we built new ones, better ones, lives full of meaning and purpose and love. So who really won? The audience gave a standing ovation. Afterwards, dozens of survivors came up to me sharing their own stories. "Thank you for speaking up," one woman said through tears. "You made me feel less alone." That's all any of us could do. Share our stories, support each other, fight for change, and hope that our pain prevented someone else's. Marcus Mitchell spent his days in a cell, cut off from the world, his legacy one of violation and abuse. I spent mine surrounded by love, doing work that mattered, living a life he'd tried to destroy but couldn't. He'd been my gynecologist, my husband, my abuser, but I was a survivor, an advocate, a mother, a wife, a doctor, a force for change. And that made all the difference. The lesson Marcus learned, too late and from prison. You can violate someone's body. You can steal their fertility. You can document their suffering like research. But you can't destroy the human spirit. We survive. We heal. We fight back. And we win. Not by destroying our abusers, though justice helps, but by refusing to let them define us. By building lives full of love and purpose. By transforming trauma into triumph. That was my truth. Our truth. The truth of every survivor who refuses to stay silent. Marcus thought he was conducting important research. But we conducted the real research into resilience, healing, and the indomitable strength of women who refuse to be broken. And that research will echo long after Marcus's name is forgotten. Because survivors don't just survive. We thrive. We change laws. We save lives. We win. And nothing, not abuse, not violation, not systematic harm can take that away from us. My husband's secret was exposed. Everything changed. And I helped make sure it changed for the better. That's my story. That's our story. And it's far from over.